assembly required, but listeners' discretion is advised. Sit back, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe or follow. Now, let's not keep you waiting. It's time to welcome your hosts of TNT Podcast, Tara and Tina.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of TNT Podcast with your host, beautiful Tina, and myself, Tara. You can follow us on Instagram at TNT Podcast Show or on Twitter at T_N_podcast. Probably best to just subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we are available on all the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the rest of them. So Tina and I are coming off one heck of a weekend, right?
It was a great weekend.
An amazing weekend. We were down in Michigan for the Modern Street Hemi Shootout event. And then right after was the Woodward Dream Cruise. Mm-hmm. So for anybody that doesn't know about the Woodward Dream Cruise, it's this huge global car event that takes place, and people come from all over. So if you've never experienced it, you've got to experience it, especially if you're a car person. It's just a blast, lots of fun. So this episode, we're going to cover the almighty cold air intake. And our next guest knows all about that because he dominates the community, the Hellcat community, the Dodge community. And we saw them this past weekend down in Michigan, and it was great to see them down there. So let's introduce our next guests. We've got Chris Harrigan with Legmaker and Mel Dion. Thanks for welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us. It's nice to see you so soon.
Thank you. Did we just see each other?
Yeah, we did.
Thank you for having us on.
Oh, anytime.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for being on. And Mel, you work alongside Chris at Legmaker, and you've done a lot of the promotional stuff as well. You've been a spokesperson for the brand. You help with the merchandise, and get hands-on, like really get in for the manufacturing part of it. But Chris, I keep hearing about this really cool backstory with how this all came about, this business opportunity, and how this got started. So maybe tell us a little bit about, I have kind of an idea, but maybe tell us about how this all
Sure. No problem. The business name being Legmaker, not something that most any automotive person, regardless of brand connection, would think of as an automotive type name. And it all started because that was my screen name for years on whatever forum, blog page, what have you, over the years that before social media and Facebook groups were the big thing. That's what I called myself, because that's what I did. So for 20 plus years prior to getting into the automotive world, I designed and built prosthetic limbs for a living. And it started not because I wanted to, I grew up as a kid going, I'm going to make fake legs for, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Albeit an amazingly gratifying career. It really started off as when I finished up college I grew up in California.
Okay.
When I finished up college in Northern California, I lived in Sacramento. I went to Cal State Sacramento. I was involved in a real bad car accident where I wiped out. I T-boned a F-350 dually at like 50 miles an hour without hitting the brakes. I mean, I had the motor like sitting next to me. I was in a little Honda Accord.
Oh, wow.
I messed up a lot of my body, but my ankle specifically was broken pretty bad. And a term called avascular necrosis is where the bone just doesn't want to come back. And I know everybody tuned in for an automotive show, and you're going to get an anatomy lesson here, but parts of the bone in my ankle didn't heal, and they were dying away. So I had a very legitimate possibility of losing my foot as a result of this accident. And through rehab and healing and so on and so forth. I was fortunate they were able to save it by fusing everything together. It doesn't work anymore. My ankle doesn't move, but I kept my foot. But going through the process, I had a very vested interest in the amputee world because that could be me.
Right.
Completely as fate would have it, I had just met my future ex-wife, and her brother happened to be in the field, owned a fabrication facility that did that designed and built limbs. And I was always good with my hands when I was younger. And so, I wanted to be a lawyer. That's what I went to school for. That's what I thought I was going to go to law school and be the next F. Lee Bailey.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out that way. The life has a weird way of things kind of go different directions.
It does.
But I ended up working with my brother-in-law at the time and really took a liking to it. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of people who were college educated in the technical aspect of that field.
Right.
So I kind of quickly rose through the ranks of a couple of companies that I worked for that kept getting bought by bigger companies. And next thing I know, 20 years later, I was running a prosthetic department here in Orlando when I got transferred out in 2001 to Florida from California. And I loved it for the longest time, but I was always called Legmaker. So when I got into the modern Mopar world back in early 06, that was my screen name on LX forums, Charger forums, all the big forums back in the day. And so I would go to a lot of events, and this was before LMI. I would take which is now my race car, but back in the show car days, I would take it out, and people would not know my name. They would know Legmaker, but they didn't know my name was Chris.
So that's one thing I was going to mention is you also drag race as well.
Oh yeah. I try to be as involved in the community as I can. Helps to know what you're making and know the end user and the end product. It helps a lot when you know how these cars work because you know what will work on those cars.
Absolutely.
So how did you go from show car to trying to make a performance product? I mean, that's not tire shine. Why didn't you make your own tire shine, Chris?
A lot of bad decisions.
He knows I'm teasing him about car shows because everybody does.
A lot of bad decisions.
He was a big car show guy.
I was.
Yeah.
I'm the first to admit it. I was a huge car show guy. Off to my right over here in our loft, there's a nice big show poster back in the day. But
that's how I started.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people start that way. What actually got the kick for me is when I was young in high school, I had a buddy of mine that had a 68 Camaro that was the first car I ever got to take down the track.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a Volkswagen Bug that I turned into a pretty quick car for what it was back in those days. But I didn't drag race for the longest time until I moved to Florida. And then when I got the Charger, I had a, kind of interest in it, but the car, I'd go out, actually, Tina, I'd go out with Scott a lot down at Moroso back then, now West Palm or PDR. And the car was like a 13.0 at 107 mile an hour. It was like a perfect bracket car. And I just got the bug doing it. And then would have been like 2009, still in its heyday of show cars. Ron Salvedo, One Bad Four Door. He's an OG guy too.
Beautiful
he
car.
had a Novi Paxton 1500 supercharger. He took off his car and sold it to me. And when I put that on the car, I think it was like April of 09. Scott and I put that on in the garage. Scott's watching, he'll remember. And everything kind of went downhill from there. Rapidly. So,
tire shine would be cheaper, right?
I wish sometimes I would have stayed with the tire shine and the carnauba wax. Yes, definitely.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of how that kind of went. And it's like anyone who races, you're always chasing that next number. And what is that next mile? That's kind of what it turned out to be. And next thing I knew, I had a car that was gutted, running 850s on a Holley engine management system. It was never in a million years what the car was ever thought to be when I first bought it.
Gary, thank God you made legs because our maker wouldn't have the same ring.
No, actually, I did arms too, but they weren't my specialty. Legs were definitely my specialty.
Gary, that's true.
Funny guy.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
We'll give him a shout out at the end. But can you take us through the process of how like these are handmade, which in and itself is amazing. Like they're handmade. Like what's handmade now?
It's so I think a lot of people in today's day and age, everything is automated. Everything is machines. You push a button and it pops out a bunch of widgets without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
You don't find a lot of companies anymore that can do the things that we do, especially with the materials that we use, and still keep the price point where it's at, because they are truly handmade. They're every step of the way. Either Mel or I have our hands on, whether it's be laying up the carbon fiber, whether it's the introduction of the resin, the cutting, the finishing, the demolding process. It's all a process, and it was all taken. The process of making the tubes is a direct result of years of working with composites in the prosthetic industry. Okay. So I took those skill sets. It was 2008. I had someone approach me at a shindig before I was running the shindig, actually, and asked me, they knew my familiarity with composites, specifically carbon fiber, and it asked me if I could make something, and they showed me an early carbon fiber air hammer. So for the real OGs watching this, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I said, yeah, I could probably make that. And so I got hooked up with a guy who was struggling at the time in his business doing them. And I literally just started I was doing it out of the garage as a manufacturer capacity only. I had no desire at the time to start a business and do it public. I was really just doing it to kind of get some side money for the racing stuff, because it was just getting too expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Start going.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another, and I had, unfortunately, that person I was trying to help, he ended up going under completely. There's a long, torrid story about it, which I won't go into, but I saw an opportunity at the time. I had a lot of people reaching out to me going, well, could you do this? Could you do that? And again, it's one of those things where you make one, it does well, somebody else wants one. Mm-hmm. The story goes from there. And you start in the garage, and next thing you know, you're moving into a bigger building, and next thing you're leaving your career because the opportunity to do something. So you go from making body parts to car parts almost overnight. Right. And I made that switch, I think, back in 2010 or 11, and I haven't looked back since.
One of the coolest things, though, now for people knowing, and I had known some of that story, is if you look at the piece, it does resemble what? Right?
A little bit of a leg, yeah.
It totally does, it's really cool.
Yeah. That picture you just showed there was directly, that is still on the mold, has literally just been laminated, hasn't been taken off the mold, hasn't been demolded, hasn't been cut, ground, nothing. And that process, the way we do it, is very different than how the majority, if not all, automotive carbon fiber is processed and made these days. We work off positive molds, which everyone else that I know of in the industry, at least automotive anyway, they don't. They work off negatives and compression molds and use autoclaves and so on and so forth.
So that's the material that you use is carbon fiber?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, real? Oh, yeah. We buy it by hundreds of pounds on really, really huge rolls of carbon fiber every month. We go through a lot of carbon fiber.
Okay. I do have, was a small promo video of you guys. If you want, I can show that. It does show you actually.
Is it the one you just recently, that TC2?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because it just kind of gives you an idea of, like you said, the different processes that take place. Mm-hmm. Let's see here.
I'm Chris Harrigan. I am Legmaker Intakes. You can reach me at my website, www.legmakerintakes.com. The leader in the modern Mopar market for cold air intakes, benchmark setting, handmade carbon fiber air intakes for strictly the modern Mopar community. You can reach me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Legmaker Intakes. Instagram is at Legmaker Intakes Racing, or you can reach out to me by phone at 407-342-3134. I try to pick up the phone 7 days a week as I can. The shop is a little noisy. Sometimes I don't hear it, but leave a message. I'll get right back to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's a good.
Yeah.
you see quite a few of the steps in the process. I mean, real quick snapshots of it, but yeah, that video is pretty good at showing kind of the start to the finish.
Right. And so you're almost like molding it on the one machine.
Yeah, we have various different molds. Like I said before, we work off positive molds. So everything that we do, and these molds are done not just on a wing and a prayer. Like I said before, I've only ever really done work for. I mean, I dabbled in some other brands, but my focus has always been on the modern Mopar stuff, all the Gen 3 Hemi things, and I put together things that work from a pure mechanical science, physics, airflow principles, what works, what doesn't, understanding air tension on the inside of a wall of the side. There's a lot of things to look at that some of the intangibles that differentiate what we do. But I know what works with these cars. Every manufacturer does things differently. I mean, you can get to Miami from Orlando taking 5 different routes, but you're going to get to the same place in the end.
Right.
What we do just is you're getting a handmade carbon fiber product. The material itself has huge advantages over metal, plastic, rubber from a heat characteristic standpoint. It doesn't heat soak the same way as other materials do. The filters that we use, a lot of the competitors that are in our game, we use a lot of the same products in regards to filters. It's really the design of the tube, how it fits, and how it works on that particular application is what separates it from the competitors, in my opinion.
Okay. Maybe give
too, when you go out to a racetrack, go out to any modern street Hemi shootout, especially in the Hellcat platform. Look what's under those guys' hoods. I mean, I like to say it's because we're the best, but I mean, you put your money where your mouth is. These guys run the product and they win.
right.
And that's the best. It's like the old NASCAR adage when win on Sunday, sell on Monday. I mean, if people are out there using a product, we're not paying them to do it. There's I can't think of any racer out right now that is under sponsorship that we're paying their products. These people are literally using what works, and the Hellcat guys, they're a tough crowd.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean,
if it doesn't work, they're going to tell you.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. You'll know about it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You'll know about it. But I mean, when I first came on to the scene in the Hellcat world, it was the first thing I bought when I got my Hellcat. The very first thing before tint, before anything else. It was the first thing that I purchased, and I love it because the sound is very unique. And if nobody has heard, we all call it the whine. And I mean, the supercharger has somewhat of a whine already. But what this intake does is just makes it that.
It acts like a cheerleader's megaphone. If you look at the shape of the intake, it goes from small to big. It literally is like a megaphone that a cheerleader would yell through.
Right.
Except your supercharger screaming through it, and it's amplified 10, 15 times over.
Right. Mm-hmm. Let's show this clip here so people can see. Never thought I'd like to hear anything whining, but I don't mind that, right?
No, I don't mind that one at all. I get a kick. I drive my Hellcat. I've had one on. My Hellcat was used to develop it. The Hellcat kit back in 16, and even to this day, I get a kick out of driving my car around and it's not really modified. It's just got an intake and a tune on it.
Right.
But just hearing that supercharger whine, because you'll go and drive down the street. You're not going fast. You just roll into the throttle, and you'll have people on the sidewalk kind of turn around real quick and go, "What was that?"
Right.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I still chuckle like a little kid.
Yeah. Maybe like just quickly go through for the folks that don't understand what a cold air intake does for the car.
The basic principle, I've always hated the term cold air intake, and it might sound ironic because it's what we do for a living, but I've always thought it was kind of a misnomer because so many kits out there, regardless of the manufacturer, I don't care who it is, that put an open element filter in the engine bay. And I don't care if you put it in a box, if you put it in with a shield and you got heat tiles from NASA's space shuttle around it. They're going to heat soak. It's just the nature of the beast. It's understanding how air flows through the engine bay, where the air comes in where the air inlets are, and then where's the air exhaust from the engine bay. Those are the types of things you need to understand. But anytime you put an air intake, or at least an open element filter in an engine bay, I've never really termed that as a cold air. It's always been a misnomer to me. That's why you'll never see any of the LMI products outside of the Trues, which take the filter outside of the engine bay. You'll never see any of them referred to as a cold air intake. They're an air intake. But
Right.
the benefits from an air intake system is two things really. It's temperature and flow. I mean, you do both of them halfway decent, you're going to have a decent kit. And it really comes down to design. And a motor is nothing but a big air pump. And the more restriction you can take away from that air pump in front of it, so it can breathe easier. And I always tell people, imagine trying to breathe through a coffee straw or a garden hose. I mean, it's just you're going to breathe a lot easier with a lot less effort and get a lot more air.
Right.
Same basic principle.
Yeah, that's true.
And then if you can get decent amount of cool air in there too, obviously that's going to help as well. Cooler air is always better. But the big thing for the Hellcats and really any car that has a positive displacement supercharger on top of it, that has to draw the air in. It's sucking the air into the motor and then compressing it, is you need to remove the restriction in front of the blower. The more you can do that, the better product you're going to have and the better performance you're going to end up. The air temperature is the air temperature. What goes in, it's going to increase and heat up based on being compressed by the supercharger. The relative temp going in and temp going out of the blower is going to stay the same. So obviously, the cooler air you can get in, the better. That's why guys love it. But getting rid of the restriction in front of a blower, that to me, and I have found in my testing and in my experience, has a bigger effect overall than the temperature of the air. Now, granted, and people are going to be out there, oh, he's got it all wrong. Hot air, hot air, hot air. Yes, you want cooler air. I get all that. And when the car is in motion, especially with our products, you're going to be taking in the air from the front of the car, from the bottom of the car. You have cool air coming in, flooding the engine bay. It is then going to wash out all. So these guys are like, oh, you're just sucking hot air all the time. Well, no, you're not. In the car, if you're sitting still in 100-degree traffic, yeah, it's going to get warm.
Right.
But once you start moving, that engine bay it gets flushed with air. That's not the case anymore. But like I said before, with the blower cars, the superchargers, lowering the restriction in front is the biggest thing, in my opinion, to get them to work. And I have found with the Hellcat specifically, it pays huge dividends. And that's why the design of my tube is the way it is, going from big to small. For any of the water, what's the term I'm looking for? All the engineers out there and talk about the Bernoulli principle of water flow. You know, when you take it down, or Venturi effect, whatever you want to call it, taking it from big to small, squeezing it up and making it go faster, kind of the same concept. It all goes back to my original air hammer, which wasn't my design. Actually, it was something that somebody else came up with that I tried to. That's one of my first told you about. I was trying to help another company out. I ended up taking on that design, but it made sense. It always made sense to me. And because I'm no engineer, that's not what I went to school for. I learned to fly, renting on cars, and then figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
Right, exactly.
The bigger, the better in front of a blower, and it'll the freer it flows, the better it's going to work.
So currently, you're just with the Dodge platform, right?
Yes.
So maybe just go through what is available, right from V6 all the way up.
V6, we don't, unless it's an early 3.5, would have been 2006 to 2010 LX cars. We don't have anything for the 3.6 Pentastar motors. When they first came out in 2011, I took a look at a couple of them, and the manifold had reversed the throttle body to the passenger side and would have required so much carbon fiber tubing that the price of the intake would have literally priced it right out of reality for a V6 owner. And I'm not, that's not a dig at the V6.
Oh, it didn't make sense. Wouldn't make sense.
From a business standpoint, it didn't make sense. You're looking at probably a $700 intake that might have gained you 10, 12 horsepower on that particular motor. That just makes sense. I mean, you're not going to get your return on investment for that type of
right.
making would have never panned out. It'd taken me years to get the money back up, because the mold making is a very, very expensive aspect of what we do, because without molds, we can't make anything.
Right.
And the molds take a long time, a lot of CNC work, a lot of CAD work. It's you pay a lot of money to make these molds, so you
Right.
have to make sure that from a business standpoint, you're going to sell enough product to, recoup the cost.
Right.
We have everything from 5.7, anything Challenger, Charger, 300, Magnum, Jeep, the Ram trucks, just about anything with a Gen 3 Hemi in it. We have something for it. The Hellcat stuff, is anybody out there who owns a shop right now will probably echo the same things I'm about to say. When the Hellcats came out, it changed the game profoundly for our industry, in my opinion. And I think a lot of others would probably share that, because a lot of things changed. I mean, we do probably 85, at least 85% of what we sell now is based on a Hellcat intake tube, whether it's a Trackhawk, whether it's a Durango Hellcat, whether it's a Hellcat, a Red Eye. We sell a lot of those products now. We don't sell as many, and we still sell a lot of naturally aspirated stuff, a lot of the Trues, a lot of air hammers, but not to the same level as what the Hellcat products. They just, and I think any company that does a lot and just deals with modern Mopars will probably echo that same sentiment, that the Hellcats changed the game big time. Good and bad, but definitely changed the game.
Now, one of the biggest things that, people would want to know is performance. Like, what's this going to give me? Like,
Oh, everybody wants to know. What's the dyno number? What's the dyno number?
How much more horsepower is this going to give? Is this going to do anything for my performance at all? Is this going to, like the number one question I'm sure you get asked all the time. How much am I going to gain?
Absolutely.
What's the number? Right.
And that's such a wide open, because it all depends on the car, it depends on the conditions,
Right.
depends on the dyno, depends on where you're at. There's so many variables to that. But testing, when I originally did the Hellcat intake and tested it on my dead stock 2016 Hellcat Charger in the middle of July, and the dyno area at Diablo Sport at the time was probably 102 degrees. And we made, on the dyno, back-to-back poles, it made 18, 20, and 22 rear wheel horsepower. And then over and over and over, it was 20, 22, 20, 22. We had some 24s and 5s, but over and over and over, it really averaged out to a realistic 22 horsepower. And that was in brutal heat and humidity in Orlando, Florida in July. Now, I've had shops send me dyno sheets, and they are showing 25, 30. I've even seen some as high as 35. But again, you take that all with a grain of salt. Some of my competitors would take something like that and they'd run with it like it was the gospel. Yeah. I don't sell intakes that way. I know they work. I know they do well. You can just look at the people who win with them. But I'm not going to blow sunshine up someone's skirt just to make it sound good. I saw one of my competitors on Instagram the other day and talking about their intake, and somebody said, well, how does it compare to LMI? Well, we beat them by 2 horsepower. 2 horsepower, really?
Yeah. If that's what they
all right. I mean, I guess I should be flattered that they're, they want to,
push the limits. Or, yeah.
I was like, okay, that's good. But now you're going to see a realistically 20 to 22 horsepower out of, and about the same in torque out of our kits for the Hellcats. And then the other kits like the Trues are legitimately 15 to 18 on naturally aspirated motors. And again, these don't sound like a lot, but these are real numbers. These aren't inflated artificial numbers. And when you go to the track, you'll see numbers that will correspond with those gains. Right. So these guys would say, "Oh, we picked up 35," and then they go to the track and they picked up 200s on their time slip. Even when they're at the track and they do the swap that day, at the track, same condition, same everything, they don't pick up what they're supposedly advertising for gains. But it is what it is. That's just the nature of the beast. It's the intake world it's kind of cutthroat. It's a little rough. Everybody's got the best thing, and everybody's got their cheerleaders on their side.
It's like the chillers.
Mm-hmm. It's like anything. I mean, anything.
Absolutely.
Average cost intake. It doesn't matter what it is. Everyone's the fans.
Exactly. What stage is this for the intake, for the process here?
So those are intakes that have just been demolded. So they've been taken off the mold and they've been marked for whatever corresponding kit they're going to go to, and they're getting ready for the finishing process.
Okay, cool. Notice how they look like a leg,
Leg.
right? Like
Kind of a running theme there, isn't there?
there is. I think that Legmaker name was perfect. And then
Chris, how many units do you think you make a year now?
yeah, good question. Yeah.
Based on the last thing I looked at, we probably make 300 to 350 Hellcat kits every month. So that's would be an average. Sometimes it's been up to works to 500 in a month. That's just Hellcat. That's not all the other kits.
Right.
The Durangos, Trackhawks, but I mean, I have sold in the thousands. I would probably venture to say getting probably creeping up towards 10,000, but I would literally at least 8,000 over the course of the last 6 years of doing it.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, we do a lot of Hellcat stuff. What's funny is Tina and Tara, Tina, I think you've seen the shop, haven't you?
Yes. Well, just the outside of it, I think. I wasn't inside.
Most people who come to the shop are kind of surprised when they walk in, because you walk in, you see our office, which is a couple 100 square foot office. It's nothing fancy, but when you walk from the office into the shop where we make everything, the first thing everyone goes is, wow, I thought it'd be a lot bigger.
Yeah.
and it's really not. It doesn't require a lot of room. And
it's just the two of you.
Yeah, and what we do, I've always been in my past career, I was big into Six Sigma and lean management and lean manufacturing. And the more efficient I can make the environment, the more I can get done in the less amount of time. And so when I was working by myself for a long time, I had to be as efficient as possible. So that I kept everything really small. So if I had to walk more than 2 or 3 steps to the next tool, it was a waste of time. So that allowed me to get a lot of stuff done. And most people were blown away that I could get as much stuff done as I did in a day.
Right.
Now, I can't do that anymore. I had to back in 2020. Yeah. I remember coming home from a race with Gary Rudy, and we were leaving No Problem Raceway in Baton Rouge. And COVID was just hitting. And I was thinking, oh, crap. The business is going to go straight downhill. I mean, I don't sell anything people need. Everything's a want. It's not a need. What's going to happen? And lo and behold, if it didn't do the opposite thing, it just blew up to a point where I felt like 2 months behind, and I couldn't help anymore. So I brought on a person that I had trained years prior in the prosthetic world when I was still in prosthetics, and asked him to come on as a subcontractor and make tubes, because I trained him. I taught him exactly how to do it. So I knew he could do exactly what I did. And he came on board, and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm getting 50 to 100 tubes a week. This is awesome. And then I had to package them all and ship them all and label them all. And that's where Mel came into play. So like October of 2020, I needed help around the shop.
Yeah, definitely.
Mel came on board then. And then within a month, she was fabricating. I taught her how to fabricate within, a couple of weeks. And
yeah, by November, I was fabricating the 45 degree
and then
tube, and
now she can fabricate just about anything in the shop.
Anything in that office. Now.
That's awesome.
And so she handles all of the operational side, the shipping, receiving, inventory control, everything. I literally am lost now when I go back into the inventory area.
Don't know where anything is.
Like every couple of days.
Gotta put stickies everywhere, all over your office.
Yeah.
There's little labels on everything now. I'm looking at where's that piece right? Oh, there it is, right there. No, but and it's you can see. I found out quickly with Mel. She as a dental assistant before in her previous career. She was always 3 steps. And once she knew the process within the shop and how things went, she was already 3 steps ahead of me before I got there.
Right.
So
that's perfect.
When Limo Guy was there doing the videoing of that commercial you showed earlier, he commented on the fact that you guys are really you can tell you guys work as like a fine-tuned watch, because we're just not even talking to each other. We're just do around the shop and hand this, hand that, hand this, and
you just do it.
That's what allows, in essence, 3 people to get the amount of work out that we do.
That's a lot.
It is.
It's It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of carbon fiber. We've
Yes, we're very itchy. all
very
the
itchy.
time.
Yeah, how does that come in? Like just raw material? Like how,
I wish
It's
I would
on
have. Wish I'd have brought some.
Yeah,
I was just curious.
it's on like a big roll.
Oh, okay.
Harrigan is on a big roll.
Do you remember? Do you remember those little Chinese thumb torture things? You put your thumbs, and you try to pull them
The
apart.
finger
Your thumbs.
traps.
Then you're,
Oh, yes.
it's like
okay.
a woven braid. That's
Okay.
how the carbon comes. It's literally, some people call it a sock, but it's a woven braid in a tube. And you compress, stretch, whatever. And then that's what you lay over the material or over the mold. So that is like a lot of carbon manufacturers use a flat cloth. We don't use that. The flat cloth, you have to seam it in certain areas and it doesn't come out as well.
Right.
But if you use a braided tube, although it's got a little bit different look than what most people are used to with carbon fiber, one, you can get the carbon fiber to do exactly what you want for the most part. It's a lot more conforming to odd shapes. And two, you can get a stronger end product because you can get more fibers to each toe, and a toe would be each cable within the weave, versus a braid. Heavier braids that are for stronger, you have to lay it up a lot, and there's different fashion that you lay it up to get the strength. With the braid that we use, it makes things incredibly strong with not a lot of material. And what's nice about it is that, again, it's a tubular braid that you can put over an odd shape and get it to lay nicely for the most part. But that's how it comes in the raw sense. Once you're done and you introduce the resin into it and it becomes hard, then it's a lot of cutting and grinding. That's where the itchy comes from.
Right.
Grinding it. So in that video where the commercial you showed earlier of me on the grinding wheel, that's where a lot of that, even though we have a good dust collection system in the building, that a lot of that stuff still comes out, and it's always floating in the air for hours.
Well, I saw Mel had a mask on.
Yeah, I wear a full respirator. She's got a dust mask on because she's not right there when I'm finishing.
Right.
But we even have an air filtration system in the ceiling, and even that, I mean, you got to change the filter in it every day. On heavier days, when you've done 30, 40, 50 things, when you go home, first place you're going is taking everything off, getting in the shower, and trying to get it all off. Yeah, taking a cold shower to get it all off.
Yeah, no kidding. What about installation? Are these easy for the average Joe to install on their car, or is this something that they have to take to a shop? Or
no, they're pretty simple. The site has a whole list of various downloadable install guides for all the different kits that we sell. So the average person who knows their way around a toolbox, it might be a 5 on a 0 to 10 hammer scale. It's not hard. Of course, there's some people that try to do it that probably shouldn't be doing it. So you'll have some, but that's where, I have no problem picking up the phone, answering emails, Facebook Messenger messages on how does this go in? What do I do here? That's just part of being a small company and being active as both Mel and I are in this community. That when people reach out to you, it's like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll tell you how to do it.
Right.
K&N to get an install guide, or nobody at K&N is picking up to say hi. Sorry, K&N, I'm not beating you up, but big companies like that, you're generally
Well, you can't be as personable and more one-on-one, right? But I mean, I guess for somebody that knows their way around the engine and stuff, it's fairly easy to install.
It is, for the most part, it is.
What about warranty? Do you guys offer any type of warranty on the intakes?
It's funny. Warranty is never really ever in the 10, 11 years I've been in business. I have a warranty, and 6 months down the road, if something goes wrong with it, just let me know. If it's truly a failure on the product part.
Right.
A lot of times you get guys who get a little overzealous with the clamping on the carbon tube because it's not metal. And when you subject it to heat, as any composite material will happen, it can begin to soften ever so slightly. So if you have too much pressure on the clamp holding it in place, it can actually cause the tube to deform. It states clearly on all the install guides, even the list that you get when you get your kit and open the box, think snug, don't over tighten, go to whatever the foot pounds is. But I've had people call up a year later and say I over tightened it, I got a little deformation in it. and I'll say send it back, and I'll get it fixed, and I'll do a warranty repair on it. I've done warranty repairs on kits that were bought secondhand. It's just because it's one of those things. If I just believe in the product, I know it's not the end of the world if I can make it right for the guy. Even though they didn't buy directly from me, they're still going to sing the praises of the business.
And they're going to remember.
And if something truly fails because we didn't do it right, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but it's extremely rare. You're going to call me up in a couple months down the road, and the filter collapsed. I've had that happen. Oh, Jesus. Okay, send you a new filter. No questions asked. So
right.
So I would say, I have 12,000 miles. I've never really put it in those terms because one, it's never really been an issue, and if it did pop up, I'll take care of it, whether it's 6 months old or a year old or whatever, or secondhand, like I said before.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to ask too, longevity for your product, and if you even know the longest standing one that's around or have any idea of.
The longest Hellcat kit is on my car. Would be the one that's on my Hellcat. It was one of the first ones that I made. And it's been on there since July of 2016. And I'll be the first to admit I've probably cleaned the filter twice. First to admit it. But it's like the guy who paints houses for a living. His house has got peeling paint, right? But no, I mean, I actually saw a couple guys at Woodward, believe it or not, that had kits that I made back in probably 2010 and 11.
Oh, nice.
So with proper care, like anything, it's going to last.
Right. What about color options? Have you ever offered? When I got mine, I swear that Greg Davies, a mutual friend of ours, mentioned something about red ones. Was there such a thing? Did you have any other color options?
Way back at the beginning, I had toyed around and tinkered with some different options of colors, but it's not real carbon fiber because you can't color carbon fiber. You can't. It comes as a natural graphite color. What you'll see when they talk about colored carbon fibers is hybrid mixes, whether they have, I've seen them with colored colored fiberglass, textilium, whatever it's called. I've seen some Kevlar mixes, which Kevlar is mostly is basically polyester. It's a really, really, really strong polyester fabric, but it's carbon fiber doesn't come colored. If somebody wanted a color option, the best option is to paint it.
Okay.
You can paint it. Like the one in my car is actually painted now, but the actual carbon fiber itself will come in a natural graphite color.
Right.
Because you can't color it. You can't dye it.
Here, I've got a picture here of, so this is kind of what you get in the kit, right? That
looks like a 5.7 Durango kit right there.
Okay. Got the instructions and everything in there. Let's just see here. I wanted to ask you too, have you any thoughts of the future and doing them for other platforms?
That is a really good question, Tara. It is, as you were at Woodward this past weekend, like we were, and Dodge revealing the new EV car and all the hype about that. With whether you agree with it or not, that's an argument for a different time. But that is ultimately, I think, where, in my opinion, where the automotive industry is going.
Yeah.
I don't see the combustion engine just disappearing overnight. I was actually excited to hear that they're going to bring another Hellcat Durango out. I'm sure the current Hellcat Durango owners weren't thrilled with that, but for me as a manufacturer, I did like hearing that. I think I also heard the rumor of maybe another year of Hellcat production, whatever it was. But in a couple of years, something that we sell predominantly is going to be going away. You're still going to see, obviously, in my opinion, a good 3, 4, 5 years of sales beyond that. They're not just disappearing. It's not like Hellcat we stop making, we'll have to disappear and get crushed. So there's going to be the business there for at least the next, in my opinion, at least the next 5 years. But after that, I don't know. And the EVs, we don't.
I
There's
know.
nothing that I can do that we as a company now have that would fit that market. I mean, they don't need it. So
Right.
that is a concern. But it's a challenge that I look at in a positive manner. But it's something that I'm going to have to look at closely over the course of the next 6 to 12, 18 months to how I'm going to rescale the business and into what part. I mean, I could get into other companies, but they're all kind of in the same boat. They're
Right.
all,
I was going to say exactly.
everyone's doing the same thing. I think Dodge actually was a little bit late on the draw with the EV stuff, but be that as it may, in my opinion, as I said before, everything kind of is going that direction. So what does that mean for LMI? I don't know. We might have to, like I said before, rescale the business and start looking at other products, completely different product lines. Body parts, custom little trinkets, interior pieces, exterior pieces, things like that.
Right.
The shop itself right now is not set up to do that type of work and that type of composite work. It could be. I mean, I could make those changes, but that is definitely a challenge that we're looking at over the course of the next, like I said, 12 to 18 months.
Right. Well, we should show you heading down the track. Should show a quick.
Yes, because I do that as well.
Yes. So yes, you are. You've got No Name. That's the name of the car, right? You call it No Name.
Yeah, everyone wanted to call it Bridesmaid because I always seem to finish second place, but I didn't like that, so we ended up with No Name.
Okay. So this is an inside the car clip. Was this the past weekend?
No,
okay.
Mel and I were going, what track is that?
Yeah.
I think that was being 2 years ago. Last year?
This year.
Really?
We just got the book.
I may go post another one. I don't remember. It was BNP somewhere.
It was BNP. We're just not sure what year it was.
Oh, okay. And now you guys are gearing up for another event that's coming up called Yellow Bullet, I believe. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Yellow Bullet's not this weekend, next weekend. My bestie and crew chief, Mr. Gary Rudy, dragcoach.com, shout out. He convinced me to do Yellow Bullet last year, and I was nervous to say the least because it's a big event, bigger than anything I'd ever done before.
I've never been, but I've heard it's pretty big.
Deal. When he told me that I had to move people out of the way with the front bumper when I was in the staging lines, he wasn't kidding. There's
really?
a lot of people. But I will say this much: after that weekend last year of almost making the field of the top 32 cars, I think we had close to 70 cars in the 850 index class. Friday, the first qualifier, we went 852 with a 3.
Awesome.
And I remember seeing myself on TV. I thought, I was watching the replays. God, look at that. That's like an HRA. But
that's so
cool.
The
announcer said 52 of the 3 here are going to be in for the weekend. And Gary and Mel, the whole team, we're all high fiving. We made it. We're going to be in because I think we were 12 on the ladder after Friday night. And then we went an 849 with a 7 and just missed it by 3 thou for the 50. And after that, we just kept 53 or 54 or 50 this, and we were really close. If it was an MSHS event, it would have been wonderful. But that last year's event ended up being the toughest 850. It was 852 with a zero was the 32 qualifier. That was the bump.
Wow.
And I remember making my last qualifying pass, and I think I was 30th. And by the time I got back from making the pass, got into the pit, was getting out of the car, I could hear the announcer say, "Oh, and Harrigan just got bumped." And I'm like, "Holy shit!" But it was tough. But I remember leaving the event, realizing and telling myself, I can drive. I didn't embarrass myself. I was able to hang with some of the biggest, the heaviest 850 hitters on the East Coast. Didn't look like an idiot in the process. So
yeah, that's awesome.
It was a game changer for me. It really opened my eyes to the car, to the potential of the car, to potential of myself, the team, and everything that we could do. And it's been a blast. And that's why I think my goal this year was to finally walk away with a stallion, not be a bridesmaid again. And hopefully, if I'm not a religious man, but if all the stars align for me, come Maryland here next month, I think I have a 3-point lead going into the final race in the 850 class. So hopefully,
I'm gonna try to make it there.
Maryland's a beautiful.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do my best.
Maryland's
yeah, I've heard just to see the place. Like
the best restrooms I've ever seen at a drag.
Oh wow!
For what it's worth, the best bathrooms I've ever seen at a
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Did they have a really good snack bar? Fish tacos and tequila?
Tequila's at our trailer.
VMP had the fish tacos, and she was so excited.
Drinks are at our trailer too.
Yeah. So how can people find you? Like to get in touch with you for any questions or ordering, that kind of thing. How can people find you?
Marketing.
You can find us on social media, Facebook, Legmaker Intakes. Instagram is at Legmaker Intakes Racing.
Right.
And on our website, legmakerintakes.com.
And you've got a YouTube channel.
We do have a YouTube channel.
Right?
YouTube channel is Team Legmaker.
Just getting started with that.
That's just getting started. There's a no name on there. There's couple videos of my Hellcat on there. Tina and I racing.
I was gonna say, isn't Tina? Yeah, there's a
great video of Tina and I racing on there from Bradenton this year, where Tina flies past me so fast.
Is that the one I downloaded?
Yes,
Tara has it.
You see her time come up before I even hit.
But
that wasn't the one.
That wasn't me.
Yeah.
That you're kind of like catchy, and then it's cool. That one.
That was the
roll
race.
Yeah, that was the roll race. That wasn't.
I was going to ask if you were roll
that's
racing.
not you showed it earlier. You had it earlier.
Showed it earlier when it was just all of us, because the footage of Tina and I, it's from inside my car.
Oh, from this show tonight or from an earlier show?
No, you showed it earlier.
You showed it earlier before we logged on.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's from our YouTube channel. It's Melcat versus Mom Car.
No, that's me being bored in the car.
It's him.
I don't know what you did with it.
I'm not sure. Because I'm just looking at all the videos. Yeah, because I definitely would show it if.
Because both of our cars are LMI. They're both just screaming going down the track.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now I found this one, but I don't think this.
Situation.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think that was Orlando this year. That was my car.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure what happened to it.
Well, it's on our YouTube channel. Team Legmaker.
Melcat versus Mom Car.
Melcat versus Mom Car.
And so you were world racing in that one. That's
No,
The
that
one
No,
that you just showed. No.
That was just a qualifying pass for our Tina and I ran in the Women in Wheels
Right.
Oh, right. Yeah, we'd love to have them on.
Bradenton this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, I mean, are there any questions, Tina? I've been trying to look here. See, I
Don't
think
think so.
people are just giving shout outs and speaking of.
No, just the guys being the guys in the
in the chat.
in the chat.
Well, we'll give a quick.
You know, questions like, can you make penis extensions solid carbon fiber for them, Chris?
You know, actually,
That's
the funny you said that. If I had a nickel for every time I've heard that,
Guess who typed that? Just guess.
I'm gonna guess Scott.
Mhm. Yeah.
Good business idea. Just
And I
saying.
Might have to rescale the
I was
business a
gonna
couple
say
years.
Scott or Gary.
Right.
Gary was going to be my second guess.
Just saying, could work. And speaking of Gary, we'll give him a shout out because you know him well, and Mel, and he's been a big help to you and some other racers, getting you guys, you know, organized at the track, taking care of what you need, doing some tuning, everything else. It's dragcoach.com. I think you can get in touch with him.
Yep.
As well, and he's on Facebook. Pretty sure he's on Instagram.
Yes.
Yep.
But he's got a website as well. And if you're new to the sport and you need a hand, you want some one-on-one, you don't have any idea, Gary's the guy to talk to.
You can look to SRT Addict, Matt Green. Just won the 1250 class at the last race in Detroit. This guy just got started this season. He's a rookie racer, and within four races. He won in a big class. 1250 is a big class, and he won the class.
He made it to the finals in King of the Hill.
And made it to the final King of the Hill. Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. Shout out to him. He did a phenomenal job. But you know, Gary, Scott, Tina. Scott's also been a huge influence. I've known Scott for many years, and he's been a huge influence, good and bad. Both ways, but you know, could not have done a lot of what I've done to this day without his input and his ideas and his advice. And Gary's been an absolute you know, breath of fresh air for me from a racing standpoint. You know, he really promotes the product. Gary and I actually started working together before No Name was No Name. When I was helping him with some of his 1150 or 1250. And when he won King of the Hill in 1250 a couple years back, he did some Yellow Bullet stuff that I was involved with him from a sponsorship standpoint. And he's really been a major influence as to the racing aspect of Legmaker Intakes right now. I can't thank him enough for his efforts, for what he does,
right?
Input and advice over the last few years as well. So, I mean, those guys have done just amazing. You know, Mario down at Gearhead, who you know has always been there building the car in the last couple of years. I asked him a couple of years ago, I want an 850 index car, and he gave me exactly what I wanted and then some, and has been hugely supportive with getting the car where it is from a mechanical standpoint. So a lot of people to thank. You know, Eric Storms has been another one who has been amazing in his tutelage. And he put together, him and Billy Briggs put that motor in my car, I don't know how many years ago. And that thing is doing things that nobody thought it would. We're still trying to figure out how the rods aren't hanging out of it right now. But yeah. a lot of people have been real helpful along the way. And then, you know, obviously from a LMI standpoint without Mel's help and Ernie behind the scenes making things down for me in Miami, and all the help and support I've gotten from people over the years. I'm very grateful. And that's why you'll see LMI as involved as we are in giving back to the very community that has helped us get where we are today. So
absolutely,
that's why I've been a sponsor for an MSHS race since day one in 2010. We sponsored the Orlando race to start the season as a title sponsor, but it's just giving back to the community that's done so much for us. So it's the very least that we can do.
huge support from that group.
Oh,
Absolutely.
and it's unbelievably grateful. I'm unbelievably grateful, and I cannot even begin to express the amount of appreciation and gratitude that I have to the community of people that I've known for so long and been involved with for so long, to allow me to do something I absolutely love to do.
Right.
Be relatively successful at doing it.
Exactly. Well,
thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I can't
That's
thank you
great.
guys enough for coming on. I mean, I learned like a ton. And look at Legmaker, you went for an hour.
I did.
Yeah,
Really?
you were worried that you wouldn't have
You
anything
did
to
it.
talk about.
I'm out of gas. I can't make it.
Did you
funny.
forget who you were?
Yeah, never talk.
I mean,
Yeah,
you kind of like to talk.
I will someday put out memoirs of the leg.
You did fantastic because you made it right to an hour, buddy. So
Right.
good.
Well,
And
I thank you so much for having us on. It was absolutely
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And we'll have you back on again sometime soon.
We look forward to it.
We'll see you maybe at MIR.
Most definitely.
Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Awesome. Well, we're back, I think, around the 15th of September. And so that's it for our show tonight.
Yep.
So good night, everybody.
Good night.